There is a prison so invisible that almost nobody recognizes they are living inside it. And because they do not recognize it, they spend their whole lives decorating the prison walls, polishing the chains, defending the very cage that destroys their freedom. And this prison is the desperate human need for respect, approval, recognition, admiration from others. Because, beloved ones, the moment your inner worth depends upon how other people see you, you have already surrendered your freedom completely. You have already become psychologically enslaved. And the tragedy is that society does not only encourage this slavery, it celebrates it, rewards it, conditions children into it from the very beginning, teaching them slowly, subtly, continuously, that their value depends upon applause, obedience, success, status, reputation, and the opinions of the crowd. So naturally the child begins losing contact with his own being, because now his attention is no longer rooted inwardly. Now his whole consciousness becomes focused outwardly upon the eyes of others, upon what people think, what people say, what people approve. And from that moment onward, fear enters his life. Because now his happiness depends upon something he can never truly control. Beloved ones, listen very carefully, because this may disturb you deeply. But truth always disturbs before it liberates. The person who needs respect is not respected inwardly by himself. The hunger for respect arises from inner emptiness. A man deeply rooted in his own being does not beg psychologically for recognition, because his existence itself feels enough. He may appreciate love, appreciation, kindness, but he does not become dependent upon them for his identity. The slave needs approval continuously, because inwardly he doubts himself continuously. And society exploits this doubt mercilessly. The politician exploits it. The priest exploits it. The marketplace exploits it. Even relationships often exploit it. Everywhere people are manipulating one another through praise and rejection. Because humanity has forgotten how to stand alone inwardly. Humanity has forgotten how to look into its own consciousness without needing confirmation from the outside world. And because people do not know themselves directly, they seek mirrors everywhere. They ask continuously, who am I in your eyes? Am I valuable? Am I important? Am I worthy? But beloved ones, the moment your identity depends upon mirrors, you become fragile. Because mirrors can break, opinions can change, Crowds can turn against you overnight, and then the same person who felt respected yesterday suddenly collapses inwardly today because his center was never truly his own. It belonged to the crowds. It belonged to public opinion. It belonged to the constantly shifting winds of society. They agree while truth burns inside them. They live according to expectations they never consciously choose. Why? Because respect has become more important than authenticity. Beloved ones, have you noticed how early this conditioning begins? A small child laughs loudly, cries openly, dances naturally, speaks honestly, and immediately society begins shaping him. Do not behave like that. What will people think? Be respectable. Be good. Behave properly. Slowly the child learns that spontaneous being is dangerous and performance is rewarded. He learns to suppress his naturalness. He learns to calculate reactions. He learns to wear masks. And the tragedy is that after years of pretending, the person himself forgets where the mask ends and the authentic being begins. He becomes psychologically divided. One part of him performs for society, while another part remains hidden, wounded, neglected, silently waiting to be acknowledged. This inner division creates immense suffering because no human being can remain false continuously without paying a deep psychological price. The soul suffocates beneath performance. Beloved ones, understand something tremendously important. Respect itself is not the problem. The problem is psychological dependence upon respect. If someone respects you naturally, beautiful. If someone insults you, let that also pass naturally. But the moment your peace depends upon admiration, you become manipulable. Then anybody can control you simply by threatening your image. This is why societies function so easily through shame, reputation, and social pressure. The crowd rewards conformity and punishes individuality because the crowd itself is unconscious and therefore fearful of anything authentic. An authentic person becomes dangerous because he no longer obeys merely to gain respect. He acts according to awareness, not according to approval. And this makes him unpredictable to society. Beloved ones, every awakened being in history eventually disappointed the crowds because truth and public approval rarely walk together for long. Buddha left the palace. Jesus challenged religious authority. Socrates questioned accepted beliefs. These people were not concerned with maintaining respectability. They were concerned with truth. And truth always threatens systems built upon conformity. Society wants obedience because obedience creates ardor. But existence wants consciousness because consciousness creates aliveness. Society wants repetition while life itself is continuously changing, flowing, evolving. Therefore, the person who begins listening inwardly rather than outwardly inevitably appears rebellious to the crowd. Not because he wants conflict, but because authenticity itself threatens imitation. The crowd feels uncomfortable around free individuals because freedom reminds unconscious people of their own imprisonment. Have you noticed how deeply the fear of losing respect controls human behavior? A man remains trapped in a career he hates because society respects the title attached to it. A woman hides her authentic feelings because she fears judgment. Parents force children into conventional lives because they worry about what people will say. Even spiritual seekers become trapped in performance. They act humble because humility gains admiration. They appear peaceful because spirituality gains respect. Beloved ones, this is one of the subtlest traps of the ego. Even holiness can become performance when driven by the need for recognition. The ego is endlessly clever. If society praises success, the ego chases success. If society praises simplicity, the ego performs simplicity. If society praises spirituality, the ego becomes spiritual outwardly while remaining unconscious inwardly. The form changes, but the inner slavery remains the same because the root problem was never behavior. The root problem was dependence upon external validation. And because this dependence remains hidden, people become actors even in intimate relationships. Husbands perform strength while feeling weak inside. Wives perform happiness while carrying silent loneliness. Friends perform confidence while trembling inwardly with insecurity. Humanity has become a theater of masks because authenticity feels too risky in a world addicted to judgment. But beloved ones, no mask can ever truly protect you. Because the one thing masks destroy is the possibility of real connection. You cannot be loved deeply while hiding continuously, because people then relate only to your performance, not to your being. And this creates another tragedy. People who seek respect too deeply often feel profoundly lonely because nobody truly knows them. And this dependence creates immense fear because public opinion changes continuously. Today people praise you, tomorrow they criticize you. Today they admire your success, tomorrow they envy it. Today they celebrate your individuality, tomorrow they condemn it. The crowd has no stable intelligence. because the crowd itself functions unconsciously through emotion, conditioning, imitation. Yet humanity continuously sacrifices authenticity, trying to gain permanent respect from something inherently unstable. This is madness. Beloved ones, if your self-worth depends upon the crowd, your life will remain filled with anxiety, because the crowd can never provide real security. One criticism can destroy your peace. One rejection can wound your identity. One insult can disturb your sleep. Why? Because inwardly you have handed your center away to others. Have you noticed how easily people become emotionally shaken by social reactions? A stranger's opinion on a screen can ruin someone's day completely. A lack of appreciation can create bitterness. A small rejection can create self-doubt. This reveals how fragile the ego truly is. It survives entirely through borrowed reflections. And because the ego itself is artificial, it requires constant maintenance. It must continuously seek approval to avoid collapse. But, beloved ones, truth does not need maintenance. Authenticity does not need defense. The real does not fear criticism because the real is not dependent upon opinion. The sky remains vast whether people praise it or not. The ocean does not become smaller because someone dislikes it. Existence itself does not seek validation. Only the ego seeks applause, because only the ego secretly knows it is false. The truly free person is not necessarily respected by society. Sometimes society misunderstands him completely. Sometimes society calls him foolish, rebellious, dangerous, strange. But inwardly he remains peaceful because his relationship with himself no longer depends upon applause. This is why awakened people often appear tremendously relaxed. They are no longer continuously managing impressions. They are no longer calculating how they appear in the eyes of others. They have stopped performing psychologically. Beloved ones, performance is exhausting. To maintain a social mask continuously drains enormous energy because deep down you know it is false. The actor must always remain alert, careful, defensive. But authenticity relaxes consciousness because now there is nothing to protect artificially. You simply are what you are. This simplicity creates immense freedom. Then you no longer waste energy trying to appear intelligent, spiritual, successful, respectable. You become available to life directly. You can laugh freely, cry freely, speak honestly, remain silent naturally. You no longer calculate every action according to public reaction. And because of this, a tremendous innocence returns. The authentic person becomes childlike again. not childish, but innocent, spontaneous, alive. Beloved ones, meditation becomes tremendously important because meditation slowly destroys the inner addiction to approval. In meditation, you sit silently without performing for anyone. There is no audience, no applause, no image to maintain. You simply sit with yourself. At first, this can feel uncomfortable because suddenly all the masks begin falling away. You begin seeing how much of your life has been shaped by fear of judgment. You begin noticing how deeply society lives inside your mind. Even alone, people carry imaginary audiences continuously. They imagine what others would think, say, approve, condemn. But through awareness, slowly a distance arises between your consciousness and these conditioned voices. You begin realizing that they are not truly yours. They were planted there by parents, teachers, religions, cultures, societies. And as this awareness deepens, something miraculous happens. The need for approval weakens naturally. Because now you are beginning to know yourself directly rather than through social mirrors. And remember this deeply, beloved ones. The person who truly respects himself does not demand respect continuously from others. Real self-respect is silent. It does not shout. It does not seek applause. It does not compare itself constantly. It arises naturally when you stop betraying your own truth. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, inner dignity grows. Every time you speak truthfully despite fear, consciousness strengthens. Every time you refuse to wear a false mask merely to satisfy society, your soul breathes more freely. This is why freedom always carries risk. The crowd may misunderstand you. Some relationships may disappear. Certain forms of approval may vanish. But something infinitely more valuable begins emerging within you: integrity. And integrity creates peace because now there is no inner division between who you are and who you pretend to be. Beloved ones, perhaps the deepest slavery is not political slavery, economic slavery, or physical slavery, but psychological slavery. Because psychological slavery enters consciousness itself. A prisoner in chains may still remain inwardly free, but the person addicted to approval carries his prison everywhere. Even alone he fears judgment. Even in silence he performs mentally. He has internalized the crowd completely. Therefore, real revolution must happen inwardly first. Outer freedom means very little if inwardly you remain dependent upon applause. A person may rebel outwardly while still secretly craving recognition for being rebellious. The ego can hide anywhere. It can become religious. It can become revolutionary. It can become humble. It can become spiritual. But beneath every form, the same question remains. Are you acting from awareness or from the need to be seen? One day, beloved ones, if you become deeply aware of this mechanism, something extraordinary begins happening within you. You stop asking continuously, how do I appear? And begin asking, what is true? This shift changes everything. Your relationships become more honest because you are no longer manipulating for approval. Your work becomes more meaningful because you are no longer chasing status blindly. Your spirituality becomes real because now it is no longer performance. Even your silence changes quality because now silence is not strategy, it is authenticity. And slowly, fear begins dissolving. Because the root fear was always fear of rejection. But the moment you stop rejecting yourself, rejection from others loses much of its power. Beloved ones, the crowd may still misunderstand you. Society may still judge you. People may still project their unconsciousness onto you. But now you remain centered because your worth no longer depends upon them. Then criticism becomes information instead of injury. Praise becomes pleasant but unnecessary. Approval becomes enjoyable but not addictive. And this is freedom. Freedom does not mean people will always respect you. Freedom means you no longer lose yourself when they do not. And perhaps this is the deepest understanding of all. The person who no longer needs respect becomes inwardly unshakable because now his worth arises from existence itself, not from social mirrors. Then he walks lightly through life. Then he can love more deeply because fear weakens. Then creativity flowers because performance disappears. Then meditation deepens because the mind is no longer obsessed with image. Then life becomes simple again. Not the forced simplicity of obedience, but the luminous simplicity of authenticity. Then you no longer ask the world continuously, am I enough? You know you are. Not because society approved, not because the crowd applauded, but because existence itself already accepted you by allowing you to exist. And in that realization, beloved ones, immense freedom is born. The chains fall silently. The masks dissolve slowly. The fear of judgment weakens. The actor disappears. And for the first time, perhaps, you begin truly living as yourself. That is dignity. That is freedom. That is real respect. The respect that arises inwardly when you no longer need it from anyone else. Children are born authentic, utterly authentic. And if you watch a child carefully, without projecting your adult seriousness upon him, without immediately trying to correct him, shape him, discipline him, civilize him, you will notice something tremendously beautiful and tremendously dangerous to society at the same time. The child is whole. He laughs totally, not partially. He cries totally, not strategically. He becomes angry like a storm. And then a few moments later, he is again dancing in sunlight, with no psychological residue left behind. He does not calculate whether his emotions appear respectable. He does not ask whether his laughter sounds intelligent enough, whether his tears are socially acceptable, whether his excitement will damage his reputation. The child lives directly, immediately, intensely, because he has not yet learned the subtle poison called self-consciousness. He has not yet become divided against himself. He has not yet learned that society rewards performance more than authenticity. But slowly, beloved ones, this innocence becomes wounded. Slowly, the machinery of conditioning begins entering his consciousness. Parents begin shaping him according to social expectations. Teachers begin rewarding obedience more than awareness. Society begins teaching him continuously that being himself is dangerous, while becoming acceptable is safe. Do not laugh so loudly. Do not cry in public. Good boys behave this way. Good girls behave that way. People are watching. What will others think? And these small sentences, repeated again and again through childhood, begin creating tremendous psychological division. The child starts learning that his natural impulses are risky. He starts understanding that spontaneous existence threatens social approval. Then a split is born within him. One part remains authentic, alive, spontaneous, while another part becomes the actor, the performer, the socially approved mask. And from that moment onward, beloved ones, the child slowly disappears beneath the performance. Adulthood arrives, but inwardly the person remains fragmented, confused, exhausted, because he no longer knows who he truly is beneath all the layers of conditioning. He only knows how to appear acceptable. He only knows how to survive socially. He has mastered performance but forgotten presence. He has become skilled at gaining approval but lost contact with his own soul. And this is why humanity feels so empty inwardly, despite all its achievements, because people have spent their whole lives becoming strangers to themselves, while trying desperately to become acceptable to others. And remember this deeply, beloved ones, because it is one of the most important understandings in the whole journey of consciousness. The need for respect is rooted fundamentally in comparison. The ego survives through comparison, just as fire survives through fuel. It continuously measures itself against others, continuously calculating its position in the social hierarchy, continuously asking unconsciously, am I above or below? Am I admired or ignored? Am I successful enough, attractive enough, intelligent enough, spiritual enough? And through this endless measuring, the mind loses all possibility of peace, because comparison has no ending. There will always be somebody richer, somebody more famous, somebody more beautiful according to social standards, somebody more powerful, more educated, more respected. The ego cannot rest because its entire identity depends upon unstable external measurements. If someone appears more successful than you, insecurity arises immediately. If someone admires you, superiority arises. If someone criticizes you, inferiority arises. But beloved ones, both superiority and inferiority are diseases of the same unconsciousness, because both depend upon comparison instead of awareness. The conscious person neither feels superior nor inferior, because he no longer defines himself through social measurement. He understands something the ego can never understand. Existence never creates copies. Existence creates uniqueness. The rose does not ask whether the lotus respects it. The ocean does not compare itself with the mountains. The moon does not feel inferior before the sun. Nature functions through authenticity, not through social approval. Only humanity has become neurotic because humanity alone has forgotten its own center. Humanity alone has become psychologically dependent upon mirrors created by others. And the tragedy is immense, because once your identity depends upon comparison, your whole life becomes competition. Then even friendship becomes hidden rivalry. Even love becomes subtle negotiation. Even spirituality becomes ambition. You are no longer living directly. You are living through measurement continuously. And measurement destroys wonder, because measurement transforms life into calculation. Beloved ones, modern society has intensified this slavery to an extraordinary degree, because now humanity lives under constant psychological observation. Social media has transformed human identity into performance 24 hours a day. People no longer simply live, they broadcast themselves continuously. They carefully construct images designed to gain admiration. They edit reality. They select only certain moments. They display happiness strategically. They market personalities as if human beings themselves have become products needing advertisement. A person posts a smiling photograph while inwardly suffering. Another displays luxury while inwardly lonely. Another performs spirituality while inwardly confused. And millions look at these edited fragments of life and begin comparing themselves continuously. Someone receives approval online and feels temporarily significant. Someone receives little attention and immediately feels invisible. But beloved ones, this significance is false. Because anything dependent upon public reaction cannot become real fulfillment. The applause fades quickly and emptiness returns stronger than before. Therefore, the hunger intensifies. More followers, more admiration, more validation, more attention. But no amount of external recognition can heal inner alienation. Because the problem is not lack of admiration from others. The problem is disconnection from your own being. The person addicted to approval resembles a thirsty man drinking salt water. The more he consumes, the deeper his thirst becomes. Society has created a whole civilization built upon psychological exhibitionism, where people no longer ask, "Am I conscious?" but only, "Am I visible?" And visibility can never replace authenticity. Visibility can never replace silence. Visibility can never replace self-understanding. In fact, often visibility becomes an escape from self-understanding. Because if you remain continuously occupied, gaining attention from others, you never need to sit silently with yourself. Have you ever sat completely alone? Without distraction, beloved ones? Without trying to become anything for anybody? Without preparing any image? Without performing any role? Without mentally rehearsing how others perceive you? This experience frightens many people tremendously. Because without social performance, they suddenly feel psychologically naked. Who are you without your reputation? Without your achievements? Without your profession? Without admiration? Without the opinions others hold about you? Who remains when all labels disappear? The ego trembles before this question, because the ego itself is made entirely of borrowed identities. It adjusts through reflection. It sees itself through mirrors created by society. Therefore, meditation becomes tremendously important, because meditation slowly removes these borrowed identities. In silence, you cannot pretend forever. Slowly, masks begin cracking. Slowly, the actor becomes exhausted. Slowly, the false personality weakens. And although this process may initially feel frightening, confusing, disorienting, it is also immensely liberating, because beneath all the social conditioning, there exists something real, something untouched by praise or blame, success or failure, acceptance or rejection. This is your consciousness itself. This is your original being. This is the center society could never completely destroy, despite all conditioning. And once you begin tasting this inner reality, dependence upon respect starts disappearing naturally, because now your worth no longer depends upon mirrors. You begin carrying your own light within yourself. Then even if the whole world misunderstands you, inwardly you remain peaceful, because you are rooted in something deeper than public opinion. The ego hates this transformation completely, because the ego survives through social reflection. It needs mirrors continuously. It needs reassurance continuously. It needs comparison continuously. Without external validation, the ego begins dissolving. Therefore, people become addicted to praise and deeply disturbed by criticism, because both maintain egoic identity. But consciousness itself requires no validation, because consciousness is already complete. Look at existence carefully, beloved ones. The sun rises each morning without asking whether humanity appreciates its light enough. Flowers bloom without demanding applause from the garden. Rivers flow without concern for reputation. Birds sing without waiting for awards. Existence expresses itself naturally, because existence is rooted in being, not in recognition. Humanity suffers because people have lost contact with this naturalness. They no longer act from inner truth. They act from psychological strategy. They ask continuously, how will this appear? Rather than, is this authentic? And this creates immense exhaustion, because strategy requires constant calculation. The actor must remain alert continuously. He must manage impressions continuously. He must defend his image continuously. But authenticity relaxes consciousness, because now there is nothing artificial to maintain. You simply are what you are. If people approve, beautiful. If they disapprove, also beautiful. Their reactions belong to them. Your being remains untouched. There is another subtle truth humanity rarely understands, beloved ones. The more you need respect, the more easily you become offended. Why? Because your identity remains fragile. A small criticism feels like an attack upon your existence itself. A disagreement becomes threatening. An insult disturbs your sleep. Somebody ignoring you creates anxiety. But the conscious person remains flexible, because his worth no longer depends upon being admired continuously. He can laugh at himself. He can admit mistakes. He can change opinions without feeling humiliated. He can fail publicly without collapsing inwardly. This flexibility is true strength. Rigidity belongs to the ego, because the ego fears exposure continuously. The ego behaves like a dictator, defending territory constantly, because inwardly it knows its foundation is weak. But consciousness has no need to defend itself, because consciousness is not an image. Consciousness is simply awareness itself. Therefore, awakened beings often appear playful, relaxed, light-hearted. They are not carrying the heavy burden of maintaining identity continuously. They have stopped taking social performance seriously. They can move naturally through praise and blame without becoming psychologically imprisoned by either. Beloved ones, freedom begins the moment you stop organizing your life around public opinion and understand carefully. This does not mean becoming rebellious merely for the sake of rebellion, because reaction is still dependence. The rebel obsessed with opposing society remains psychologically tied to society just as much as the obedient follower. Real freedom is neither conformity nor reaction. Real freedom is awareness. You act according to understanding, not according to approval or disapproval. Sometimes society may agree with you. Sometimes it may condemn you. But inwardly, your center remains untouched, because now your actions arise from consciousness rather than fear. This is why authentic people often appear unpredictable. They are not functioning mechanically according to social expectations. They are functioning according to awareness in the moment. Society fears such people because unconscious systems depend upon predictable conformity. A conscious individual cannot be controlled easily through praise or shame, because his worth no longer depends upon social reward, and therefore he becomes inwardly sovereign. This sovereignty is tremendously beautiful, because for the first time your life truly belongs to you. One day, beloved ones, if you become deeply aware of this whole mechanism, something miraculous begins happening within you. You stop chasing admiration compulsively. You stop calculating every action according to how others might perceive it. You stop exhausting yourself maintaining identities. And initially this feels uncomfortable, because society conditioned you to fear authenticity. You may feel naked psychologically, vulnerable, uncertain. But slowly, immense relief arises, because now there is no longer constant tension inside you. Energy previously wasted maintaining masks becomes available for creativity, love, meditation, sensitivity, joy. You begin breathing differently, walking differently, speaking differently. There is less fear in your eyes because now your center no longer depends upon applause. Then respect loses its hypnotic power over you. If it comes, good. If it disappears, also good. You remain centered because your worth no longer belongs to the crowd. This centeredness is tremendously beautiful because now your life becomes authentic again. You can walk your own path even if misunderstood. You can speak truth even if unpopular. You can remain silent without needing attention. You can fail without feeling worthless and succeed without becoming arrogant. Your life becomes simple because psychological performance disappears. Beloved ones, the deepest slavery is psychological slavery. Chains upon the body are not as dangerous as chains upon consciousness. A prisoner may remain inwardly free, while a socially respected person may remain inwardly enslaved. And the need for respect is one of the strongest chains humanity carries, because it appears so noble outwardly, while inwardly destroying freedom completely. The person addicted to approval can never truly rest because he remains alert continuously to public reaction. He watches faces, he interprets opinions, he adjusts behavior strategically. Even in solitude, he imagines how others perceive him. But the conscious person lives differently. He acts sincerely, authentically, totally, and then lets existence decide the rest. He no longer tries to manipulate perception continuously because he understands something immensely important. Truth needs no decoration. Authenticity carries its own beauty. Existence itself supports the real. Only falseness requires endless maintenance. And perhaps this is the deepest understanding of all, beloved ones. You do not need respect nearly as much as you need yourself. You need your own awareness, your own center, your own truth. You need to rediscover the silent dignity already hidden within your being before society taught you to beg psychologically for approval. Once you discover this inner richness, dependence upon admiration disappears naturally because now you carry something infinitely more valuable inside you, self-knowing, untouched by praise or blame. Then you no longer live like a beggar, asking society continuously, "Tell me I matter." You live like a king rooted in your own existence. Respect may come, but it no longer enslaves you. Criticism may come, but it no longer destroys you. Success may come, but it no longer intoxicates you. Failure may come, but it no longer defines you. You remain free. You remain authentic. You remain inwardly silent. And in that silence, beloved ones, there is immense peace, because now your life is no longer performance. Now your life is truth itself. And truth, beloved ones, has never needed applause from the crowds, because truth carries its own light eternally.